A good afternoon, everyone, esteemed guests, and dedicated advocates for climate action. We are honored to welcome you to episode 6 of the Nuclear Webinar series. So, we are continuing from episode 5 titled Floating Power Units as an Effective Solution to the Global Energy Supply Challenge. Today's session will feature insights from our main speaker, Vladimir Aptekarev of Rosatom, together also with Tim Fleming, will be both of them will be sharing their expertise on this important and timely topic. The session will run from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A chat box. Closed captions are available and can be enabled by clicking the CC button on your screen. Please note that this session is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel after the event. The presentation slides will also be uploaded to our website for your reference. To officially kick off today's session and introduce our speaker, please join me in welcoming our curator, Datuk NK Tong, Group Managing Director of Bukit Kiara Capital. With a background primarily in the real estate industry, Datuk NK Tong has been a lifelong advocate of sustainable living. Over the past 4 years, he has also been a strong proponent of nuclear energy as a key pathway towards a sustainable and inclusive energy transition. Dato NK Tong is the Group Managing Director of Bukit Kiara Capital and holds a certification in Sustainability and Climate Risk from GARP, otherwise known as the Global Association of Risk Professionals. Please join me in welcoming him to give his remarks.
Thank you, Arun. Mr. Vladimir Aptekarev, Deputy Director General of Floating Energy Solutions, Mechanical Energy Division of Rosatom. Tim Fleming, Director, Project Development and Financing Asia of Rosatom. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So on behalf of Climate Governance Malaysia, it's my pleasure to welcome you to episode 6 of the CGM Nuclear Webinar Series. We are recording this on the 29th of January 2026. We're deeply grateful to Rosatom, or also known as Rosatom State Nuclear Energy Corporation based in Russia, for their support in making today's and the previous session possible. Before we proceed, if you would like to follow along with live captions, please activate the captions feature on your Zoom screen. So this series continues our exploration of nuclear energy's role in the climate transition. In episode 5, Climate Efficiency of Nuclear Energy, we examined how nuclear power supports net zero goals through its low life cycle carbon footprint and reliability as a baseload energy source, while highlighting its growing reliance for Malaysia and the ASEAN region. Growing relevance for Malaysia and the ASEAN region. That session also emphasized the importance of recognizing nuclear energy with sustainability frameworks, green taxonomies, and climate finance to fully realize its environmental and socio-economic benefits. Now, if you haven't watched it yet, I'd highly recommend that you go back to it and have a look at episode 5, which was presented by Paulina Leon, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer for Rosatom. So building on the insights of episode 5, today's session with Vladimir Aptekarev will explore how floating power units, through the case study of the academic Lomonosov power plant, delivers reliable, low-carbon energy to remote and coastal regions, supporting energy security and sustainable development through faster deployment and reduced emissions. Before we begin, I would like to invite Tim Fleming to share his short and brief opening remarks about the organization. Tim is the Director for Project Development and Financing Asia of Rosatom, and he'll give an overview of the work that Rosatom does in our region. Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Tim Fleming. I'm Rosatom's representative here in Malaysia, and I'm based in Malaysia. We also have a number of representatives in the ASEAN region in Vietnam, Indonesia, and Myanmar. Just to recap about Rosatom from the previous session, we are the leading nuclear power developer for export projects where we have more than 90% of the market share globally. And we're currently building projects in 10 countries. And these vary from the Middle East to Bangladesh, which is the closest to ASEAN, in China, in India. And we are the only company in the world which actually has end-to-end capabilities. So from the uranium mining, the enrichment, the construction of nuclear power plants, maintenance, fuel production, and also the decommissioning. And we can do all of those services in-house. So it's a very big advantage. We can see quite a lot of number of steps in the ASEAN region of countries coming and wanting to introduce the nuclear power. We think it's a wise step because nuclear energy is one of the only clean energy that you can get for 24/7 without any interruptions. And we can see that it will help greatly the region based on how much demand they have, especially with the growing economies. Today, we're going to be introducing a very unique but proven nuclear solution, which is perfectly suited for coastal countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and many others in the ASEAN region. And we think that these benefits that will come from Vladimir's presentation are only possible with this very unique solution. And that's why we're very excited to present this to you today. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Tim. So just a recap, in the previous first 4 episodes of the nuclear webinar series, we touched a lot about the basics of nuclear energy, and in the 5th we took a deeper dive on the ESG benefits of nuclear energy. I think this episode 6 is unique because this is the first time, and hopefully we'll continue with this vein, that we take a deep dive in technologies, especially this floating power units. So we begin now with remarks from Vladimir. He'll give us a presentation for about 30 or 40 minutes, and then we'll open to Q&A. I would encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A function, not the chat group, so that we look in one area. The Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, you can feel free to post your questions at any time during this presentation. I'll keep track of that. And Vladimir brings nearly 13 years of experience at Rosatom with deep expertise in shipbuilding, marine engineering, and floating nuclear power technologies. He's held senior leadership roles across the project management and shipbuilding, and currently serves as the Deputy Director for Floating Energy Solutions at Rosatom's Mechanical Engineering Division. He'll be giving us a presentation, his remarks, and then we'll open the floor to Q&A. So once again, Vladimir, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello, dear colleagues. Hope that you can see the presentation on your screen.
Yes, we can. Super.
Then we can move on. Let me introduce myself once again. My name is Vladimir. I'm Deputy CEO for Floating Energy Solutions of Rosatom Mechanical Engineering Division, and I am at the same time the head of Floating Power Units project in Rosatom. So we have prepared, just a second. Yeah, that's it. Now we go. So we have presented, and myself we presented, basically prepared a short presentation that will give, I hope, enough of information about the project, about the product. And of course, after that, I will be available for the Q&A. So, as Tim already mentioned, we are the global leader in exporting of nuclear solutions in the world. We have more than 90% of the market, so we are still active globally. So we build in 10 countries, I will speak, full-scale power plants or small scale. And we have the whole chain, the whole suppliers chain, starting from uranium mining, finishing back-end, including machinery, including nuclear fuel and components, everything. And we have all this in-house, which is very important to keep your supply chain stable. And moreover, we are active in 10 countries from a building perspective, and we are presented in 62 countries with different projects and offices. For instance, while we speak, we're built in Europe, in Hungary, we're built in Turkey, in Egypt, in China, in India, in Bangladesh, in Kazakhstan, in Uzbekistan, and so on. We are a part of, and we have a strategy to 2030, which will support in-house breaking through projects as like, for instance, as a FPU project. And we are aiming for green quality of products and projects. And of course, we are a member of the UN Global Compact since 2020, annual sustainability report. Floating power units. So I will touch this ground of academic Lomonosov on the next slide, but in brief, we have the world's only fully operated floating nuclear power plant, or floating power unit, nuclear floating power unit. So it has been put into operation in 2020 in Pevek City, which is in Chukotka, which is a neighbor city to Alaska, for instance. Neighbor region to Alaska, I'm sorry. Floating Power Unit 106 has been developed for Russian regions with new reactors RITM 200. We build this FPUs for Russian projects. So we have serial construction there. For instance, we'll be empowering one of the biggest in the world copper mining projects, fully private projects, also in the same region, and in Chukotka region, where academic Lomonosov has been put into operation. Floating Power Unit FPU 100 specifically developed for overseas markets. Basically, it's set under designing, but it has been already designed. So we are ready for international deploy, and now we are busy promoting this solution for the global market. So potential consumers, basically, we call this cleaner energy where you need it. The only limitation is water. So unfortunately, floating means that we need water. So we can empower towns, coastal areas, ports, agglomerations, islands, offshore sites, mining processing sites, and so on. And you can see on the screen, academic Lomonosov, the real picture, which is empowering a city, Pevek City, with including the port, including mining facilities all around the city. So it's quite an isolated city, which is located basically in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of permafrost desert. So quite a unique place, and this is an isolated grid with no infrastructure, not enough roads, etc. You can only come there using so you can use only let's say planes or ships in order to come to this place, because no roads. You cannot come from the other regions using roads, unfortunately. So academic Lomonosov brought a lot of benefits for the region. So the technology itself isn't something that has been invented just now. We've been developing the technology of what we call now SMRs for more than 60 years. And the history started in 1959 when we put into operation the world's first nuclear icebreaker, Lenin, with a compact reactor. And we've been developing these technologies because, like, you know, in Russia, we have quite a unique situation. We have this Northern Sea route, and basically we are the only country which needs a lot of icebreakers in order to break ice, in order to allow to facilitate the route for commercial vessels. then we put into operation the next one, and we have upgraded the reactors, and then we put into operation another one, and so on. And now we have the reactors, the most modern in the world, compact, so-called integrated reactors, RITM 200, which we also propose both, we use both on our icebreakers and on FPUs. Basically, the same reactor, the same technology was replicated, but it took 60 years in order to develop the technology. So it's not something that has been invented from scratch. And in Rosatom, we know that only evolution way of doing this is possible. If you try to do this just from nothing, you highly likely will face with a lot of problems. But anyway, this is a proven technology. So we have 5 icebreakers. I'm sorry, we have 4 icebreakers in operation, nuclear icebreakers with this RITM 200 reactors, and about to put into operation 1 more. We have the world's first academic Lomonosov floating power unit in operation since 2020, so for more than 5 years. It has been proven, and what is important to know, that academic Lomonosov is not a pilot project. It's in commercial operations, so it sells electricity to the grid via commercial contract. And we are developing a line of floating power units now, and I will tell you more about this on next slides. So, academic Lomonosov, this is the real picture. It was made in summer. So we are empowering a city, and for this city, it was very important not only to supply electricity but also thermal power. So we do both, and the city, PVX city, with all the infrastructure is empowered by floating power unit, and moreover, it allowed us to in this region to decommission coal power plants which were really dirty. After we put in operation the FPU, and after the coal power plant was decommissioned, we are monitoring the situation with the quality of air, and we also making different surveys, we have these public relations issues, etc., etc. We are from time to time getting feedback from people there, and we know that after a long time, during winter time, which is basically winter time, there is at least 9 or sometimes 10 months a year. So snow is there, very cold, etc., etc. And after coal power plant was decommissioned, they told us now we can see real white and clean snow, because there was a lot of this coal dust all over there. So there were issues with that. Now it is empowered by green base-loaded energy, and as you might see, the infrastructure is relatively small. Everything, like 90% of the needed systems are packed on board of the vessel, and we have relatively small infrastructure, which is basically substation and a number of auxiliary buildings, which we need in order to distribute, whether to distribute the energy or to rigidly moor the vessel. So for some time we've been thinking how to provide a turnkey solution for our international customers, and we decided that we will go through a PPA model. So we're not selling the vessel, we're not selling the FPU, we're selling electricity. So it's a full-scale BO model, or you can call this, I don't know, plug and play. We call this nuclear battery principle. So we are providing uninterrupted power supply, a turnkey solution, a very predictable cost, which can be fixed for at least 20 or more years, depending on the conditions of the contract, because of 2 things. The first one is we are controlling the suppliers chain. The second one, in CAPEX or in OPEX, nuclear fuel is not a very big thing. if you'll compare to, I don't know, gas to power or diesel to power or heavy fuel to power, you will find that from 70 to 80% of your OPEX, you have a fuel there. But we have around, in this kind of objects, we have around 10 or around 10%. So the impact is not so big, allows us to fix the price for decades. And of course, no CO2 emissions during operation. Of course, we have 2 backup and 2 actually diesel generators on board, but we don't use these diesel generators usually. It's just in case we need to back up some safety systems or to start up the vessel when we commission basically the vessel. So 100 mega is the capacity, 60 years of the design lifetime, up to 7 years of refueling cycle, and just for your information, the biggest fuel campaign ever we will have here, because of also our experience in building this kind of objects in Russia, especially for icebreakers, because, like, you know, we need icebreaker to be autonomous as much time as it possible. So we are very interested in extending fuel cycle. So as I told you, as I already told you, 60 years of design lifetime. And what we do, so we know everything about nuclear fuel infrastructure. We are like one of the global leaders in nuclear fuel handling, in producing nuclear fuel, enriched uranium, and so on. And we understand that if you go full-scale nuclear object, you will need to have, you know, heavy fuel infrastructure for refueling, for handling, for you need spent nuclear fuels facilities, you need fresh nuclear fuel facilities, and so on. But for floating power units, we're excluding these heavy industries, we're excluding this heavy infrastructure, making life of our customers and of the countries easier. Basically, we have already built the whole infrastructure in Russia, in Murmansk, and we have everything there: refueling machines, fuel infrastructure, waste and fresh fuel facilities, etc. So what we do, we have a rotational model. We always have an extra barge in order to not interrupt the supply on the particular site. So we put this in operation on site, performing. We are providing crewing, operations, everything. When time comes, when we need to basically refuel and maintenance the vessel, we come with an extra barge, switch the barge to the grid, then switch off the ones to be maintenance, and bringing this barge back to Russia in order to maintenance and refuel, and so on, and then coming back with the refueled barge. And this is a rotational model that we will be doing globally. And everything what is about radioactive waste management, etc. Everything stays with us, with Rosatom, with Russia. Also making life easier, also from a radioactive waste point of view. And what's very important, we are really close to. We are now close to. Close the fuel cycle. We are busy now working on this. So basically, fuel will be recycled, and we will use this fuel for other FPUs and for other vessels, which helps us to achieve the goals of close nuclear fuel cycle. As I told you, nuclear battery principle. There can be at least 7 barges deployed globally, not in one country, not in one site. but these barges can be deployed, like, I don't know, one in one country, one in Africa, one in Asia, one in Latin America, and so on. And we can maintenance and refuel the barges with one extra rotational vessel. Of course, these vessels cannot be put into operation simultaneously, otherwise we won't be able to do this with only one extra vessel, one rotational vessel. But if these vessels are deployed in a specific sequence, we will be able to maintenance and refuel this fleet with only one extra barge. Transportation. So this is a not self-propelled ship, but at the same time it's a nuclear vessel with 2 nuclear reactors, but cannot be moved by itself. And whether we can tag this vessel or basically using other ships, or we can with the tag ships and so on, or we can also use semi-submersible heavy lifters. This is the best way how to do this, and we'll do this like this. We'll be transporting FPUs on heavy transport ship dock or heavy lifting vessel. It's the most balanced option from legal and economic perspective. We don't need to coordinate ports of refuge. We build in route with access to the open sea at a long distance from the shore. Of course, we have lower shipping risk compared to towing and tagging. Unfortunately, we enable to use a heavy lifter in shallow waters. Tax should be required, but the major part of the route will be able to pass using this heavy lifter with the FPU on board. Coastal infrastructure and mooring systems. So in order to fix this vessel near shore, we have a jetty, specific mooring equipment. The vessel is rigidly moored to the jetty. We have cable lines that comes from the vessel through jetty to onshore, and onshore we have physical protection system infrastructure, transport gateway, transformers, substations, sewage pumping stations, piping cable lines, accommodations, small warehouses. So basically, it's a quite light infrastructure if you compare with a full-scale power plant, for instance, including nuclear one. So these are the last, basically 3Ds from our actual design. You can see on the screen. Floating power unit is a source of sustainable and base-loaded energy source. So among other nuclear solutions, this is a base-loaded green solution. Allows to dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's a very effective alternative for fossil fuels. Of course, high ecological standards are there. And of course, this can ensure long-term economic growth from low carbon energy perspective and availability and baseload perspective, and tariff and price predictability for decades. Everything ensures long-term economic growth. Sorry, that's it. When it comes to the conversation on what comes first, industries or energy. So what is first, the demand or the source? In Rosatom, we know that the source is the king. And first comes the power source. Allows to have enough of room for economic and social economic growth. What are the major benefits from this kind of project, from FPU project. Of course, this is a contribution to the net zero performance. Also, you have economic growth throughout industrial growth. A lot of industries require base load. And when it comes to baseload green energy, it's even more, a delighted piece of pie, because you can, with the products you produce, the products you produce with this kind of energy can be green certified, and this is another big thing. Of course, driving new jobs and innovations. Of course, we need engineers for onshore structures. Of course, we need to adjust the legal framework. We are coming with a lot of knowledge to the countries. First of all, when we speak about newcomer countries, how we call it newcomer countries, nuclear countries, there is a huge potential synergy with renewable projects, because if the country goes renewable, you have to have enough of base load. And this is a matter of a decision of the customers or the country or national grid companies, whether they will use very expensive batteries with all the problems of degradation of the batteries, with all the problems with the prices of these batteries. Because if you need to keep the industries, if you need to keep base load 24/7, you will have big problems with renewables if you don't have base load support. And this is another thing, because you can support renewable sources of power by floating power units, by nuclear energy, which is also green, makes your grid more stable. Of course, contribution to UN Sustainable Development Goals achievement. And as I have already mentioned, from economical perspective, it's a sufficient GDP input and tax revenues. Basically, this is the presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Hope it was at least interesting. And I'm ready to answer the questions if there are some.
Okay, thank you very much, Vladimir. Wow, that's a lot to get through, and I think quite a fair bit of technical aspects for, I think, people to take a deep dive. So just a reminder to everyone, please pop your questions into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We have a few already, but I also reserve the right as the moderator to defer any questions that I feel could be better answered from previous webinars, to refer you there. And perhaps I'll start with a few broad ones to set the tone. The first one, I think, set the stage for also Rosatom, because I think a lot of us are not familiar. But to put the uranium into a power plant, you have to mine the uranium, you have to convert it and then enrich it, and then make it into fuel pellets and then put it into the plant. And you mentioned Rosatom does all of that, from cradle to grave, including dealing with the spent fuel. So a lot of people are not aware that 40% of the world's enrichment capacity of uranium comes from Russia. And what percentage of that is through Rosatom? Is it all of it or some of it? Yeah.
All of it.
Okay, there you go. So this is like, maybe the Saudi Arabia of oil. This is, except maybe 4 times bigger. Because,
yes,
that's correct.
Just for your information. So we are still the biggest supplier of enriched uranium to the United States.
Well, he said that, not me. Okay, thank you. Just curious, so far you're developing 100 megawatt FPUs. Will you be looking at building bigger ones, and what would the maximum capacity be for an FPU, do you think? Or are you just going to just combine them in series to get to that?
So it's quite an interesting question. So for the last, I think, 3 or 5, maybe 5 even years, time goes really fast. So we've been doing marketing in order to understand the optimal size of the vessel. And we understood that from different angles. I can tell you more, but it will take more time. So from different aspects, 100 is the best capacity, at least for now, at least for the start. And of course, the technology itself is scalable. So we can put 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10 FPUs in schedule if we need. So for us, it's not kind of a limitation. So if the customer says, okay, so I have a schedule, the demand will be growing there in this part of the region or this part of the world or at this particular, I don't know, special economy zone or industrial zone. We just put this in our schedule and we bring, like, you know, every year or every 2 or 3 years, we bring 1 more, 2 more vessels in order to add more power to the grid. So yes, so basically, if the question is it physically possible to produce, design and produce FPU, let's say with a higher capacity? Yes. From engineering perspective, everything is possible. But the biggest thing I think is the crossroad of economy and the demand. So the answer is 100 we consider as the most efficient and the most convenient.
Okay, great. And just a quick follow-up. I mean, how many could you put together in a site to add up?
Yeah. So okay. Of course, depends on the particular site. If there is enough of water area in order to place enough of FPUs, if let's say if the demand is, I don't know, 700 or 800, it is more than possible to install 8, even 9 or 10 or whatsoever. But when the demand is, let's say, bigger than 1 giga, or at least the country or a country has a plan to increase the demand. So from some point of view, it will be more practical to build full-scale power plants. If you have, let's say, for instance, the demand of, I don't know, 2 giga or, I don't know, 3 giga, and you understand that within like 10 to 15 years, you will reach like the demand of 3 or 4 giga. Of course, in order to have a quick win, it is easier, faster, and more practical to use FPUs. So you will reach, I don't know, 500, 700, or 800, or even 1 giga using FPUs in schedule. And then, let's say, after a few years, you'll put into operation a full-scale power plant, which basically will be more convenient way doing this if the demand is big.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have some other questions, but I'm going to jump straight to audience questions because they're now coming in fast and furious. Okay. This first one by Muhammad Zaini. What are the challenges running FPP using nuclear as fuel faced by owners so far? I think when they say owners, I guess they meant the off-takers.
Yeah. From an off-taker perspective, it's just electricity. So, as I told you, this is a turnkey solution, and we promote this as a turnkey solution. For the customer, let's say in Russia, it's just electricity for the city, for the mines around the city, etc., etc. And for this Cooper project, also there is a big thing for the customer that basically they're providing offtake, guarantee against the offtake, and then we do our job. Yes. Speaking about the international deployment, so basically we always leave this small infrastructural part to our customer, and there could be different ways how to structure this, but customers are different kinds of customer. You can have national grid as your customer in some countries. You can have fully private off-takers or state-owned off-takers. So different countries, different rules, different situations, and different structures. But we usually leave the infrastructure to the customer. What is infrastructure? we are not speaking about nuclear, something nuclear. Basically, it's a conventional infrastructure. Substations, accommodations, small warehouses, small office facility, really small. You've seen the pictures, the actual pictures and the 3Ds. So nothing really heavy there. So it's not something, very complicated. But we keep this infrastructure to the customer in order to, to have a long-term marriage with the customer, because yes, we are interested to stay in this. We can basically deinstall the vessel if the contract has been terminated. So nothing, we don't have problems with that. So we can move this. So we can move from one side to another side. But of course, it's more practical to stay in one place and have a long-term contract. Of course, first of all, from a business perspective. And yeah.
Sorry, just a follow-up to that. Maybe one question could be, what does a country need to do to prepare for such a power purchase agreement? I mean, from a regulatory point of view, to accept floating power units, given that, we have nuclear energy and radioactive uranium sitting off their coast. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. Of course, it depends on the countries, whether the country is a newcomer country or it's a nuclear country. So whether the country already have full-scale nuclear industry or, let's say, only research reactors.
Probably really just research reactors like Malaysia, from Malaysian context, yeah. Oh, by the way, for the audience, we do have one research reactor in Bangi, yeah.
Yeah. That's why. So it really depends. So if you have at least a research reactor, of course, you basically can consider yourself as a nuclear country. So you might be a newcomer from a power generation perspective, but you are not a newcomer nuclear country. So so some regulations should be there, some security measures should be there, IAEA should be there, etc. So IAEA missions and supervision should be there, etc. But what is very important, that the country in an official way should announce that they go nuclear. This is the first, I think, and the most important thing, because some other G2G things comes out of this. Come out of this, because we have to be sure that all the nuclear facilities will be used peacefully. We have to be sure that all the regulations in the end will be there. And this is a matter of G2G interaction, basically. It's always a kind of intergovernmental agreement or a number of different agreements that can be done with a country with the country of the origination of the technology and where is basically the vendor is located.
Okay.
Has come from. And from a regulatory perspective, it's not so complicated. And for FPUs, I mean it. So it doesn't really matter if you have, let's say, a law on nuclear power generation or nuclear energy or not. So for us, for FPUs, it's not so important. The first thing is to add add electricity, add nuclear to your energy mix, at least in your long-term or mid-term plans. And we can see that, okay, so nuclear is there. Now we start talk.
Okay, great.
We can also help the country to add this type of power source to the energy mix. So it's also possible, and we do that. Explaining, arranging workshops, etc., saying, okay, so if you want, you can do. And if you want, we can help you to add this to. Of course, it's not said there, so that this power unit comes from Rosatom or from Westinghouse or from, I don't know, CNNC. But at least it says that, okay, so 300 or 500, this, your plans in Malaysia, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's already there. So it's a good start.
Okay, great.
From a regulatory perspective. So for FPUs, the brilliance of the moment is that Russia and Rosatom is the only corporation in the world, in the country in the world, which has this technology and which has the FPU itself, the object itself, nuclear object in operation. So it's like a watermark for nuclear solutions. That you need to build the first one at home and to prove that it is safe and it is in operation for more than 5 years. So basically, we have this watermark. After 2025, we have this watermark. And then the biggest issue is to replicate the legal framework from Russia to, for instance, to the host country. So the framework itself is relatively simple, but some specific regulations on nuclear vessels should be there. For instance, some countries has already recognized nuclear vessels as a type of object that can be located in their territorial waters. Some still not. So, and it depends. So basically, we can bring everything with us. So we have a specific team which sits with the regulators, with the authorities, and shows, okay, so we have this kind of law in Russia. So we have these rules and these regulations in place. We have this and this. We have this kind of supervision of nuclear regulator, and then we have this kind of supervision of maritime regulator, because we are at the same time, we are nuclear and floating object. In Russia, we are under supervision of two regulators. First one is nuclear regulator, and the second one is maritime regulator, because this vessel has been recognized by our Russian maritime register, which in 2019, when the vessel was basically recognized by the maritime register, it was among the international list of registers under IMO, and Russian maritime register at this point of time recognized this vessel as a non-self-propelled nuclear vessel, floating nuclear power plant. So that was basically the world's first experience of recognizing the object, recognizing this kind of object. And now we just, what we say, we can fully replicate, partly replicate, then we just need to sit together, understand the regulatory framework in the particular country, understand if we need to adjust something or add something. It takes a few months just to understand what's the ground. And then we sit together with the regulator and just put the regulations there. And we have enough of time. Okay, so even if the contract has been already signed, but the regulations are still not there, we still have enough of time to put all the regulations in place by the time when the FPU comes. And that's the brilliance of the situation. We don't need to wait, because this is a BO project. In Russia, we have the particular regulations that allow us to start building and to build it serially without any specific connection to the specific site, because these FPUs are the same. These are like serial production of cars, for instance.
Okay.
So,
great.
But the site is always tailor-made, and of course it takes some time to design the site, etc. But to design and build the site, it takes, like, depends on the country and on the complexity of the particular site, from 3 to 4 years. And so you have enough of time to put everything in place if the contract is there. And you know how in some countries governments and regulators are driving these processes. In some countries, and we can see now, business is driving. When they say, okay, we need this thing, we are about to sign the contract, we need these regulations to be in place by the time we will start operations, because we need this energy. And that depends on the particular country. But in the end, we can just replicate the framework and then cover this framework with the IGA. Usually we use IGA, because for basically it doesn't really matter if you go with the Rosatom or with, I don't know, with other vendors. So usually when you start building something nuclear or implementing a nuclear project, you usually sign between two countries of origination of the technology. You sign the intergovernmental agreement, which highlights some specific things, at least for instance, responsibility for physical protection of the object, because we cannot be self-protected. So we cannot come with the heavily armed people and etc. So it's a matter of country. The country should provide security and other things, and it should be stipulated. Usually, it is stipulated in the IGA.
Okay.
Other things,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so this is a very big conversation. I cannot answer with one
Yeah.
line.
No, that's why you're right. There's a lot to go in there. That's why I let you go for a bit, because it gives everyone a color what needs to be done. I think everyone's curious. But we do have to move on. The questions are coming in fast and furious. So I'm going to edit some of them. They are in certain blocks, but we'll take this one very quickly. Where was it? I saw one from Neelam Rani. She said, is there a prototype here in Malaysia? So I'll answer that quickly. I mean, we have that research center in Bangi, but we don't have a floating power unit for sure. So we heard it here from Vladimir. The fact that we have one makes us a nuclear country, which is interesting. Then there was one that is related to jobs, or quite a few questions here. How many new jobs employees are required to operate a single FPU? Will this technology not reduce jobs as it impact the huge oil and gas industry? I think we know where that question is coming from. And then sort of related to that, there was also a question of, will it be manned completely throughout the operation period by Rosatom staff, or will you also train and employ local expertise to be part of the workforce? And maybe we'll add this in to see if it flows as well. Malaysian government normally asks for a set target of local content, Malaysian local contracts for such a large infrastructure projects. Hence, if any, what are the areas of participation can local engineering and construction companies partake in this FPU project? So I guess it's about jobs, loss of jobs, creation of jobs. Yeah. Over to you, Vladimir.
Yes, I'm just writing down the questions in order to group these questions.
Yeah.
So local content, jobs, crew, and this interesting question comes probably from
oil and gas
gas industry and oil and gas industries. If we are like decreasing the number of jobs, so yeah, I will tell. So I will start with this gas and oil industry question. Usually, usually not. Usually we don't. So these two things are separate. You proceed using your gas to power plants, for instance, and all the jobs will be there. You will be exploring. You will be storaging, transporting this gas, and everything will be in place. And if the government will decide to support this industry, there will be more, power plants that use gas in order to generate electricity. But in the end, of course, in any case, we're not decreasing the number of jobs, because even if we're if we need to substitute, let's say in some countries we have a request to substitute diesel power plants because they are very expensive and dirty, and we will come in some countries we'll come to some regions of these countries and we will put in operation FPU, and then we'll in some stages we'll decommission these diesel generators, but we will still need personnel that will take care of onshore infrastructure. And I tell you that this is not less than the same personnel that they use on this, let's say, for instance, diesel power plants. Moreover, we usually advise to the country not to decommission and shut down these diesel power plants, but to just to put them on pause. If the demand will be growing, still the country can use this, you can use these capacities in order to improve their grid in order to have more power in a moment. And from time to time, we also need backup in order to perform some operations. Let's say from time to time, we need to shut down one reactor. We have 2 reactors on one vessel. We need to shut down one reactor for testing, let's say, for 1 week. And this is quite a smart thing. So you have all the existing infrastructure in order to support this, even us. But of course, at the same time, the costs will be decreased dramatically because you are not burning fuel 24/7. You burn this fuel, I know, once a year, and for I don't know, for 1 week, which is basically chips. Decreases CO2 emissions at the same time decreases OPEX, but still the jobs are still partly there. And of course, when we come to the country, we bring more jobs. Because you have to operate onshore structures, you have to have maintenance, you have to do onshore, you have to even, starting from catering, finishing medical services, everything should be procured locally, and everything, of course, including engineers that are in charge of maintenance of substations, in charge of building of this particular facility, and this is a quite, It's not something which is like a rocket science, but still engineering should be there. Really, really advanced engineering should be there. Electricians should be there, electrical engineers, and so on, construction engineers. So we do increasing every time we come. We do increasing dramatically, and the multiplicative effect of our project is also a matter of a very interesting discussion, because we are not also only bringing, let's say, onshore structures. Okay, so you need like 100 to 120 persons in order to operate onshore, the onshore structures. Also, we need 128 128 people in order to operate the barge. But we don't do food there, so we need catering services. We don't do medical services, etc. So it's a multiplicative effect, because there will be contracts with the local business that will bring more products. And yes, that's
so
it.
just a follow-up question to the questions. From what I understand, everything onshore is local content, but everything offshore is Russian. So the employees on the barge will all be Russian, and you won't bring locals in, or you might employ. I mean, I guess 2 questions. One is job employment. The other one is maybe some technology transfer.
So let's say there are some critical persons on the vessel: the captain, the operator of the reactor plant, the operator of the steam turbine plant, the operator of ACPS system, which are crucial in order to, basically crucial for everything. And this, it takes like 5 to 7 years in order to train and certify this kind of people. And these are not something that you can take from the market. It takes years, sometimes decades, in order to certify them. That's why we call this like critical personnel, which will come from Russia, because it takes too much time. So if you need to implement the project, you will need to use our crew. But the other, which are not let's say not so critical, that they can be like conventional maritime personnel, can be brought to the vessel and can be also certified by Russian Maritime Register, but it's faster. So it's not something like specifically nuclear there. So it's nuclear addendum is not there. So otherwise you need to be specially trained and certified. It is possible. If you have like a pipeline of projects, you can bring more, and you have more time, you can bring more personnel from the country of origination of the from the host country. This is a fact.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be quite a multinational team on board then.
Yes. In the end, yes. And of course, like there are some, frankly speaking, there are some issues not with us, but with the regulator. So the regulator should be 120% sure that this personnel is well trained and certified.
Yeah.
And this can
Yeah.
be quite a challenging thing because, like, first of all, we need to, with the regulator, we have to agree upon the training program for another country. Then we will need to train them. Then we will need to pass the exams, etc., etc., etc. And the other thing is this personnel should be trained also on nuclear icebreakers, because we have a number of these icebreakers, and it's easier to train there because all the systems are the same, excluding propulsion there. So basically, we bring people to the icebreakers, and they literally live there and work with the crew of icebreakers in order to understand how to operate all the systems, etc., etc. So it's quite a practical thing. So
just curious. I mean, since you mentioned nuclear icebreakers, do you have a percentage of non-Russians on the existing icebreakers, or are they all Russian right now?
On the existing icebreakers, we don't have this issue. We just don't need, international crew.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay.
just because usually we use these icebreakers internally. Sometimes
it's too cold for the rest of us.
Yeah, probably. But on the icebreaker, it's not so cold. For instance, every year we had this, let's say, special event, which we call like the icebreaker of knowledge. The icebreaker of knowledge is an interesting trip for the students and scholars. We put them on icebreaker and then bring them to North Pole, then come back. So and we also like inviting media from all over the world, etc., etc. And the scholars and the students can check how it is to be on a nuclear vessel. So
Okay.
they literally live on the icebreaker for 2 weeks, for 10 days,
All right.
coming to North Pole and backwards. So it's quite an interesting thing.
Okay.
But for Russia, we just don't need foreign crew, because like we usually never leave the borders of Russia. But let's say we have another case. We have this Sevmorput container vessel, which is nuclear powered. And from time to time, we leave Russia and come to let's say to Africa or to Asia. So but we also, from what I know, from what I remember, we don't have foreigners there also, but not because it is restricted, just because we never thought that we need this on this kind of vessels.
Great. So I'm gonna have to apologize in advance to the audience. I don't think we will be able to answer all the questions in the remaining 20 minutes or so that we have. So I'm going to move us a little quicker. And there's a bunch of questions here on costs. Adrian's asking the estimate of cost per kilowatt hour. Someone else is asking, how competitive is the levelized tariff in comparison to other conventional power plants? How can one justify the difference in tariff, and how to justify the premium or trade-off in embarking into nuclear? Someone asked about how long does it take to build a single vessel? I think you mentioned 5 years. And what is the cost? So that's also cost related. And let me see. Yeah, if you could just maybe take a sort of general look at the costs, both from a big scale and also from a per kilowatt hour, and what are the implications and aspects that increase or reduce the cost?
Okay. From the cost perspective, I will start from some general things and then come back to this issue. So in general, nuclear energy in the end is not the cheapest. If you will, let's say, for instance, compare to coal will be cheaper, hydro will be cheaper. Of course, speaking about, let's say, for instance, hydro, which is a very cheap power source, we do not consider this power source as a base loaded, because you have these problems with the water level, etc., etc. From time to time, you're losing base load. So especially in summer, especially in such countries like, I don't know, like some African countries, and even in Asia, sometimes it happens. For the coal, there's another trend in order to decommission coal power plants, and that's right, because they are dirty. Basically, yes. Unfortunately, if you need to remain your grid stable, and if you have enough of coal, it's painful to just decommission at once all these power plants. But I think that's most of the countries, including Russia, they have these plans of decommissioning of coal power plants. But coal is relatively cheap. When we will be comparing nuclear to other power sources, we need to compare the scale. So we speak about, if we speak about full-scale power plants, these are the cheapest nuclear. Why? Because we have at least 2.4 giga in one place, 2 big blocks. And the capex is big, but in comparison with the power provided, capex is not so big. So it's big like just in numbers, but if you compare capex of 2.4 of nuclear, you'll understand it's not like something, it's not trillions. I mean like it's not so big. But when we go down with the capacity, let's say for 100, for instance, I will give you just for example. Let's say you have, for instance, 2.4 giga of installed nuclear capacity in some place. At the same time, you are installing FPUs, and you have 200 or 300 mega there. So let's say you have 10 times less of capacity than the full-scale power plant, but the capex you have only 7 times lower than the full-scale power plant. Means that small-scale nuclear is a little bit more expensive than full-scale, and it's inevitable. We can do nothing with that. It's impossible, because the reactors we use a lot of very specific alloys to produce. The quality control systems for nuclear is outstanding. Because safety is first in nuclear, and etc. So we use different very, very expensive alloys. We use quality systems, lots of quality engineers, etc. It's inevitable to get rid of this. You cannot. So because if you'll get rid of them, you'll get rid of safety. If you'll get rid of safety, then you cannot install, and you cannot safely operate. So small scale power plants. Nuclear power plants, all the power plants, including nuclear, they are solving different problems. Full-scale nuclear power plants solves the strategical problem. Yeah. Small scale solves tactical, solves the problem where the problem is now or will be in the nearest future. In the nearest future, not even in the midterm or long-term perspective. But if you will compare, of course, we are much cheaper than diesel and heavy fuel oil. It's obvious. And then when we will be trying to compare floating nuclear to other types of generation, we'll understand that we are more or less have the same price with the LNG to power power plants. And then there is a very specific topic: if the country has its own gas or not, if it is subsidized or not, if it is to be sold internally, we're using, let's say, international pricing. It really depends. But if we'll be comparing apples to apples, in the end, we have more or less the same costs with the gas. So, but 80% of countries, unfortunately, they are deeply subsidizing the internal gas industries, and that's brings our conversation to another floor. If we will be comparing the subsidies, of course we will be compatible. So if I had to push you for a number, what kind of range are we looking at to per kilowatt or megawatt hour? So this is the problem is that this is a commercial information, and I can disclose on public. I cannot disclose, but it's a matter of a number of very specific factors. So we know, but I tell you. So fair enough. No, that's fine. We know the exact cost of the FPUs. Then there is a small, small portion will be added depending on site, because it's always tailor-made. And this brings us to the full fair tariff. I tell you that, so you can just check the numbers. I will give you like the explanation that you can check. So just we are much cheaper than diesel. We are much cheaper than heavy fuel.
And good. I think we can stop there, because we don't want to get you in trouble, because you can't say too much. But I suppose in that diagram which you showed, 7 FPUs and then the 8th in reserve, and they rotate every 7 years because the power unit can last that long before refueling. I guess if somebody could get together, it would be cheaper by the half dozen, or cheaper by the half dozen plus 1, right? So it seems to make sense, like if ASEAN or something could get together and say, okay, Malaysia, how many do you want? 2. Okay, Indonesia, 4. Okay, Vietnam. They could come to Rosatom and say, yeah, we want 7 and give us your best price. And it'd be so much easier.
It's a good way of thinking, because like a firm offtake, the quality of, let's say the quality of or the ratings, let's say, of the country, meaning in the end the rating of offtake is also matters, because in order to build this, we will be raise funds. We will be raise funds from banks, from financial institutions, etc., etc. And of course, money costs is also matters. So in the end, if let's say 5 or 6 or all the ASEAN countries will get together and say, let's say for the whole region, we need, 21 FPU.
Okay.
Of course, the price will be decreased dramatically. And at the same time, if we will be doing hubs, let's say, for instance, in one place, in one country, there will be a big hub for FPUs, meaning that the infrastructure itself will be aggregated. And the costs of infrastructure will be close to zero, because you have 7 of barges, or 7 of them in operation, and of course it will decrease the price. In the end, if you have a big schedule, a big plan, it's always easier to plan for everyone.
Yeah, and ideally, if they all don't need it all at once, if they can year by year roll out one each per year.
Of course, the demand is growing. It cannot be like this, and I cannot just push you in order to say let's put 7 there. You don't need 7 there. So
do you have a ballpark of cost per FPU? Your cost, or is that something you don't discuss either?
Unfortunately, this is also CapEx is also part of
no problem. We'll move on.
I mean, it's not because we're hiding something. It is about disclosed via NDA, but you just need to just keep in mind that the international competition over this starting now. And basically, and we are still the only corporation in the world who has the technology, and we have this object in operation. About the full-scale nuclear power plant, you can read a lot of reports and understand, from all over the world, understand the prices for full scale. It's in public.
And also I think people talk about the first SMR operating in China, but I guess you were the first in 2020.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And in China, they have onshore. It's quite a different thing.
Okay. There was I think we need to move on. I'm going to take this last group of questions, which are kind of around safety. We have a question: what are fail-safe measures implemented on FPU? Should the FPU have a failure? And then let me see. There was another. Where do you store the waste? How much land is needed to build onshore and offshore facilities? Is there a substantial impact on the environment, specifically the coral reefs? And there was one more. Buffer zone, how large should that be? And Teo Shi Sheng asks, if the radioactive leaks, what protection for the ocean? For a normal nuclear plant, if something wrong happens, the area surrounding would suffer. But if FPU goes wrong, the FPU to be driven to deep sea to avoid disaster. Okay, so generally about safety, I mean, any comments on some of these questions? Thanks.
Yes, of course. These are normal questions when it comes to something new, and especially when you're speaking about nuclear.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting with the simple questions, land plots and the territory. For onshore, we need from 15 to 20 hectares. It's not a big land plot, and about, depending on the number of FPUs, from 7 to 10 hectares of water area. So speaking about safety systems, so these are a number of active and passive safety systems that are installed. During design, we are always what we do. What is the key thing? We are trying to exclude the possibility of nuclear incident and it comes to basically to zero. When it comes to calculations, you have this 0.000001 percentage of possibility of nuclear incident. Active and passive systems. Active systems allows us to basically to shut down the reactor if needed, or to prevent the shutdown from outside if it comes from the grid, something comes from the grid. So a lot of automation systems that are checking all the parameters 24/7 in order to understand how it works, etc., etc. And of course, we have also what we call post-Fukushima requirements. Frankly speaking, we had these requirements even before, but after this Fukushima incident, I have to highlight many times that we are all the design and all the design issues and all the construction technologies meets to the post-Fukushima requirements. But before that, all the requirements also were there. So speaking about the leakages, so there are a number of barriers inside of the vessel. Bottom barrier and 3 barriers. Basically, the reactor itself, it's also a natural barrier at the same time. And it is designed in order to prevent any kind of incident, of course. So we have 3. The first barrier is the reactor itself. The second barrier is the metallic barrier, and the third barrier is the section of the vessel itself. We have 4 loops, and these loops are isolated from each other. So basically, we use water in order to cool down the reactor. But this, let's say, 4th loop of the reactor don't have a direct connection to the third. Third don't have direct connection to the second, and the second have not direct connection to the first. So basically, the 3 isolated loops, 3 or 4 isolated loops for coolants, so which prevents on each stage prevents the leakage to another, and basically everything stays there. Of course, there are a lot of things about this, the physical protection, because the vessel itself should be protected from different kind of, let's say, for instance, from terroristic attacks or whatsoever. But in the end, these requirements are already there, because every critical object in every country should be treated like a national key point or something like this. So basically, this place becomes a national key point, and this kind of attacks should be prevented from different perspectives. In the end, these type of incidents should be excluded from a design perspective and organizational perspective. In the end, there was a joke from the deputy IAEA officer during the session, which was dedicated to small modular reactors. And he just made a joke, which is, let's say 70%, it's a joke, but let's say 30% might be not a joke. In the end, you can just, you can just deinstall the FPU and just leave it in the ocean. Because the crew on the vessel will be fighting for their surveillance for a very long period of time. It was a joke, basically, that was made by the deputy CEO of IAEA. In the reality, of course, there won't be this kind of incident, but it's a movable object. You need to remember that this is a movable object. Even we have calculations. So basically, we are preventing, even when we are mooring this vessel, we consider the factors of tsunami, we consider the factors of earthquake, everything. We can live with the earthquakes because we are on water. Basically, we cannot feel earthquake like you feel this in onshore. But in the end, let's say we are, of course, seeking for, let's say, natural shelters, or we need to install breakwater in order to prevent tsunami hit. In the end, even if something happens, I don't know, something, what is really extraordinary, I don't know, UFO, and for some reason, the FPU was, let's say, unmoored, and let's say, and there was a wave hit, and now FPU is lying upside down next to the shore. Even in that case, like with the possibility which is like really close to zero, more than 20 digits after zero. Even in this case, for 24 hours, the vessel can be laid upside down, and there won't be, how we call it, meltdown. So the active zone won't be melted down for 24 hours upside down. So this allows us to say that it's a very safe object. So of course, we always doing workshops in order to explain more, but all the active and passive systems are there, and all the needed calculation during design we do and provide as a part of safety report. So the customer could be absolutely 120% sure that it is safe.
Thank you. This one is probably a related question. Maybe you mentioned it's floating. So this question is, will the FPU meet the requirements of American Bureau of Shipping, ABS, besides meeting the Russian standards? And he says here the IAEA has no guidelines for floating nuclear power plants. And the reason this person knows this question is coming from Raja Dr. Abdul Aziz, our very own, who formerly was a director at IAEA for 17 years. So any comments on that?
Yes. So the guidelines are still under discussions. In IAEA, there is a well-known Atlas initiative, which is basically a site where lots of different countries are discussing this thing. But you need to keep in mind that IAEA guidelines are not obligatory. This is the first thing. Of course, it's a kind of a watermark. Of course, we are also a member of IAEA. We are highly interested in order to issue specific guidelines, and we are busy every day working on this. But it takes time. As you might know, and all the people that have been interacting with IAEA, they know that it takes like 4 to 5 years in order to put some guidelines in place. Also, just in discussions with the society, etc. But the other thing is that IAEA is not a regulator.
Right. But I guess in this question, the question here is asking whether FPUs meet the requirement American Bureau of Shipping. I don't know, perhaps it may need to if it needs to get somewhere. I'm not sure how that works.
I just finished the last the last thing. So basically, usually IAEA follows follows the leader. If the technology is there at home, then IAEA starts following the technology because you have to have enough of knowledge about this. And you know what? Except Russia, the subject is not deployed anywhere. So whether IAEA will be following our way of doing this or not, in the end, the easiest way is to follow. This is I just finished some thoughts on this. So in the reality, I think that they will be following.
Okay.
For the American Bureau of Shipping, yes, American Register has been recognized nuclear vessels, but this kind of vessel it is not recognized. So it's really hard to answer this question if it meets or not if this vessel is not identified in their maritime register. So
fair enough, yeah, because they don't regulate what they don't have. Yeah, I get it. Okay, just in the final minutes, I thought this other question was interesting. You know, during I guess during the period when you swap after the 7 years, when you swap one for the other, how long is the downtime for this shutdown to swap one floating power unit with another?
We don't interrupt power supply. Initially, we install the one which is an extra one, a rotational vessel. So we install this vessel, increase the load, and then we start decreasing the load on the ones to be maintained. Then one more and take it back. So
there's room for two to more at the same time then, I guess.
Yes. So we don't interrupt. So we don't shut down. We don't interrupt power supply. This is the key thing. And the second thing is just for information, for reference. So the first how we call this, like light maintenance, like lands, not so like it takes 3 to 4 to 5 months for light maintenance. Medium maintenance is like 7 to 10 months, and let's say heavy maintenance, which is once at 20 years, it takes like 1 year. So, but during this time you have extra barge, so you cannot feel this.
Okay, great. We are 2 minutes from the end of the hour and a half. Wow. I did not expect us to get this far with questions. Congratulations to the audience. Seems to be a very sophisticated group that have joined us today. I'd like to thank Vladimir for his expertise. There's definitely a lot more for us to understand about floating power units. I think there's also the opportunity for the audience today to see how sophisticated Rosatom and also the Russian nuclear energy space is. And you know, as a Malaysian, I just continue to hope that we move in the direction of nuclear energy. And perhaps it's not a this or that, but an all of the above solution. But at least we make those positive steps forward. So Vladimir, before we end, do you have any final closing thoughts for us?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you, the organizers and the participants. The questions were right in the spot. So that means that the audience is a very specific and professional audience is there. It's very good. And a little bit of closing words. I mean, this technology will be developing, whether we want or not, because this is a technology which allows to bring nuclear energy faster and simpler. You know, the demand is growing everywhere in the world. Specifically, the demand is growing, and some industries, including data centers, AI data center, AI calculations, requires 24/7, 365 days a year base load. That's very important that we are able to provide this. So this technology, whether it will be Rosatom technologies or Chinese technologies or American technologies or other countries' technologies, this is not even the future. This is the actual technology that will be developing from now and for the nearest, I think, decades at least. So that's it. I think, and nuclear energy is they call the renaissance of nuclear energy. It is there. I mean, not only FPUs. I mean, all the nuclear types of generation. And that's it. It's very important because this will bring us to a more sustainable, clean future. And this allows economies to grow and social economy level of the countries, especially of developing countries, to grow. And that's very important. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. So my closing thoughts as well, as you mentioned, this is here to stay. I first went to the World Nuclear Symposium in 2024, visited again in 2025. The first thing that struck me was everyone is looking at nuclear and everyone is looking into SMRs. And my fear for Malaysia, if there are any regulators or people of influence out there listening to this, if we don't start soon, we're going to get left behind. By the time we decide that we want it, Tim and Vladimir will say, "Oh, you also want it? Well, get to the back of the queue. We have plenty in our order book." So just hoping that we continue to move forward, both from a regulatory point of view and also a public advocacy point of view. So thank you once again. Thank you on behalf of Climate Governance Malaysia. Thank you, Vladimir and Tim from Rosatom. And I hand it back to Aaron.
Yes. So, okay. All right. So thank you very much to the both of you for this very enlightening session. So, and thank you all for the audience for joining us today and for giving a lot of questions. I'm even more surprised that so many questions are coming by. So before we conclude, we would really appreciate if you could take a minute to complete our short post-session survey poll. It would have just appeared just now, and it should appear on the screen. And if it's not popping up, don't worry about it. There's a poll icon at the bottom of the Zoom. So it looks like a small bar chart symbol. To open it, we'd like to really hear from you and your feedback. And this will be really helpful for shaping our future initiatives. This event has been recorded and will be made available on the Climate Governance Malaysia YouTube channel, complete with the time tag content and accompanying blog post also. Please do stay tuned to our website for updates on our upcoming events. And for the latest updates on what we do, please do consider subscribing to our bi-weekly newsletter and also join the WhatsApp community group for more timely insights. These details are all in the canned messages, so it is all in the chat, all these further details if you're interested. And on behalf of the CGM team, thank you once again to all our speakers and participants for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next event. Wishing you a pleasant afternoon, and we hope to see you again soon. Please do take time to complete the poll and the survey also. Thank you.